Welcome to the lecture. Now, continuing on from our earlier lectures, we're now moving on in the define phase, and the topics we're going to look at are mapping the process. We'll use some tools such as flowcharts. We'll look then at some more specific lean mapping tools, and then we'll move on to value stream mapping. So where does this mapping fit in the define phase? Well, we've looked at finding the opportunity, serving the customer, and now we're in this third step here in the define phase of the make. So we're going to look at flowcharting and value stream mapping. Now, flowcharting is a key tool or technique to use because it allows you to identify problem areas in the process and also opportunities for improvement. So every key process in your organization should be flowcharted. And there are a couple of key symbols you should be aware of. There's the start symbol, there's the process step symbol, and there's the decision symbol. The decision could be yes or no, or choice 1 or choice 2, and it shows any loops within the process flow onto process step 2 and then onto the finish. There are other flowcharting tools that we can use. Really good one to use is a spaghetti diagram. So this is one that was provided by the NHS, and it was the movement of staff in a pathology department. So you can see this waste of movement, one of our wastes. So what you do is you get a plan view of your department. So these are the different desks, reception and so on. And it's just like a spaghetti. So you just map the trails of people. Why are they all going from here to here? What's in here? And that allows you to identify the areas of opportunity for improvement. And it is recommended that you do this with a hand-drawn diagram. You can use other tools. You can see here we've transferred it to more of a CAD tool, and you've got your staff stations and you've got your wasted movement, but you get as much value out of it in a hand-drawn diagram. So let's return to the earlier product example we looked at, the executive pen holder, and we're going to map it through this automated manufacturing process. So there's the storage cell, the lathe, the milling machine, then goes on to the robot, then it goes to the inspection station, and then it goes back in as a finished product into storage. Now, when we are mapping this process, we need to take into account the lean principles. So you can see the lean principles shown here. We identify the value, then we map the value stream, we identify areas of opportunity to create better flow in that process. We establish pull. So that's pull from the customer, build a customer order, rather than just pushing products or services through this process. And seek perfection, continuous improvement, and then continue on and do it again. So the lean value stream mapping, which we're going to look at, will help us achieve those 5 lean principles. So once we map the process, you can see the value stream map here. You'll see the different process steps, and these symbols all mean something. So this will be an operator, one at the milling machine. We've got the cycle time, the changeover time, the uptime, which is the opposite of downtime. So if it's up for 87%, it's down for 13%. We've got the inventory between each process step. So we have 250 pieces of inventory between the lathe and the milling machine, 350 between the milling and robot assembly. So let's show you how we would create this value stream map. So it's recommended when you're doing a value stream map that you get a pen and paper and you draw the value stream. And in this case, we're mapping material and information flows. So you can see here we have production control, and they give a monthly forecast to the supplier and also weekly orders. And we're trying to make this as visual as possible. So we can see here that the supplier ships in the material by truck, and they ship in batches of 250 at a time. The other key thing in a value stream map is that you are the part. You go through the process as if you were the part, and you map each station that the part stops at. So the first station that we stop at is the lathe, and it shows here in the value stream map that we have one person operating the lathe. So as the part comes out of the lathe, then we take the cycle time, the changeover time, and the uptime. The part then goes on from the lathe into the milling machine, and we map that. Then the inventory between the lathe and the milling machine is 250 pieces. So as it comes out then and goes into the milling machine, again we track the number of people, so there's one operator there on the milling machine. And as you can see, we're a little bit of poetic license here. We're just trying to show a value stream map. It doesn't. We don't actually have an operator at each of these steps. We have cycle time, changeover time, and uptime for those steps as well. The part then comes out of the milling machine, and we track the inventory between the milling machine and the next process step, and there's 350 pieces there. So it then goes on to the robot assembly, and the part is placed onto the robot where we have some assembly steps. Again, we don't have any people here, but we have some symbols which can be used in value streams such as Kanban. And then we show the assembly step. We take the cycle time, the uptime, and the changeover time for the robot. The part then, once that's finished, it goes back onto the conveyor, and we track that onto the next process step. So the inventory between the robot assembly and the final inspection station is 200 pieces. So at the inspection station, again, we show one operator there, and the dial gauge is inspected. Everything's okay. Then we take the cycle time of that as 30 seconds, the changeover time is 5 minutes, and the uptime is 99%. So you can see we're gathering data as the part walks through the process or is brought through the process. And we're not taking the data off the information systems, we're actually taking it off what the Japanese say, go to Gemba, go to the factory floor. So finally the part goes back into storage, and there might be some packing operation there. We show one person in that station, and again we track the cycle time, the uptime, and the changeover time. So now that we've shown all the process steps, we continue on with the material flow and the information flows. So after the storage and package area, we have 200 pieces, and it shows that the parts are then shipped. There's a daily shipment, again by truck, and that goes back. This symbol here represents the customer. And then finally, the customer will give a monthly forecast back to our factory production control department. So then within the factory, we're going to show some information flows. So production control can see the flow of movement and movement of material and information through the factory floor. They give weekly orders to a production supervisor, and then the production supervisor is able to give that information daily to each of the different process steps throughout the factory. So that's the value stream map. It's a very useful process. I've put some information onto Moodle showing you where to find additional details. In particular, the book Learning to See is a good reference. Now, once you have your current state value stream map created, you then brainstorm and identify an ideal future state value stream map. And you use the Lean and Six Sigma tools to get from the current state to the future state. So you can see here, we've eliminated the milling step, or we've combined it into a single step that can be done with the lathe. We might purchase some parts. We've kept the robot assembly, and we've integrated the inspection into that. So this will be the ideal future state. We may never get there, but the idea is that you identify the current state, then brainstorm a ideal future state, and then use the Lean Six Sigma projects to get there. So we've moved through the define phase steps, and we're now in the mapping the process phase. Then we move on to the project and project management. So just one or two slides on that. With the project charter, we should have SMART objectives. So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and relevant, and timely. So define start and expected completion dates, relevant, aligning with the company objectives, achievable, attainable, it's within the project team's control, measurable, can't fix what you can't measure, you can't manage what you can't measure. And then finally, getting your project team in place using the project management tools to drive forward the Lean and Six Sigma projects.